Hey everyone, welcome back to Howtechs. Today we have a trio of Verbatim branded Type-C USB products that you can use for a MacBook Pro that only has the Type-C plugs. So if you have the newer, not even that new, MacBook Pro that only comes with Type-C, you might need to get an additional power supply and obviously a hub that includes many other of the connectors which are no longer included on the new MacBook Pros. So here's three things that we wanted to just suggest and sort of introduce here, and we'll actually do separate unboxing videos for each of those, so definitely check those out. So let's start with the hub. So this hub is, as you can see, basically the kitchen sink. So it's got the micro SD card reader, the regular SD card reader. It has the Type-C PD. Actually, this is the PD one, so you can actually power the entire thing through here, so you don't have to unplug the power supply to the computer every time you take the hub in and out. And then it has two regular Type A USB plugs, which are the faster type, so I guess 3.0 type, so it can do the higher speed. And yeah, an extra Type C, which you can use for data cable or other things. So it's got all that, plus, I don't know if you can see it there, it's got an HDMI down here at the bottom. And so this thing actually goes through both of the Type-C connectors on the side of the MacBook Pro. So one key thing that was actually pointed out to me when I didn't think about it at the time, unlike the kind that has like the cable that you plug in, this one basically only works with a MacBook Pro because of these two connectors. At least it'll only work with computers that have the Type-C connectors, two of them next to each other like this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to plug it into anything unless you had maybe an adapter. I don't know if it needs both of them to work, but basically it needs to be able to fit. So they mention it in here somewhere that it's basically designed for the MacBook Pro 2016. Wow, it's already 3 years old, so it's totally not even a new MacBook Pro. So anyway, this one, there's a key problem with it, which you can definitely see the second you get it and plug it in. I don't know how it got past their design. This design is actually relatively slim, but it's not exactly the same as the MacBook Pro, at least on the 15-inch one. So in other words, if you plug it into the computer and like the keyboard's right here, or the other side this way and the keyboard's right here, it doesn't actually flushly fit with the top of the keyboard, with the top of the laptop, and on the bottom as well. It's slightly fatter. So very strange. Like you'd think they would have just made it exactly the same, or at least made it flush on the top, but somehow they couldn't fit it in there, or I don't know. But basically, kind of an oversight. Could have been nicer, but not that bad. This thing retails for about $50, at least in Hong Kong where I bought it. It's $50. Okay, let's talk about cables. So especially because this is now your main power cable, basically from your AC adapter into your hub or directly into your computer, you need to use a Type-C cable to charge the entire battery and run the whole computer. You want to get a decent cable. Don't buy a cheap knockoff no-name one, because potentially it could overheat and melt and potentially damage your computer as well. So get something that's decent. So therefore, consider getting a Verbatim. Normally we would say like stay away from overpriced brand name ones. They're probably all the same. But in this case, this is a power one. Yeah, you probably should stick with a brand name. And so this one claims that it has Kevlar in the cabling. It's got a 2-year warranty. That's probably the most important thing. And it's from a real brand name. Here in Hong Kong, this is the 2-meter long one. It goes for 80 Hong Kong, which is about slightly more than $10. So it also specifically says that it's good for charging the MacBook Pro and iPad Pro, and it also supports the fast charging quick charging QC 2.0 and 3.0 quick charging protocols. And here you can see all the information in there. So, and it's got this special like 35,000 times bend tested, etc., highest grade material. So all that kind of marketing speak. I wouldn't say that it's that much different. It's probably definitely better than the cheap no-name ones, but it's probably not like a miracle or anything like that. But just the fact that it's specifically made and guaranteed to work for the charging, the PD Type-C. So definitely worth it for the little extra money. It's really only $10. It's not that bad. But then again, if it saves your computer from burning, probably worth it. And this thing, if I can read it correctly, it's actually in several languages here, but basically you can do up to 100 watts. So the 15-inch MacBook Pro now is, I think, 87-watt charger. So this is actually even better than that, so you should have some margin of error. And yeah, it's got some yada 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 2-year warranty. Okay, so not too bad. Definitely check out the unboxing. I don't know, the unboxing should be pretty anticlimactic, but that's basically it. Made in China, of course. And last but not least, and this is probably the most important one, is the 75-watt hub charger. So this is definitely the most expensive thing if you were to buy the original Apple one. This one retailed for $45 maybe, but it does the PD 2.0 up to 60 watts. So this is important. So keep in mind that if you have a 13-inch MacBook Pro, the power supply that comes from Apple is actually a 60-watt one, similar to this. But in fact, the 15-inch one, because it's got the bigger screen and probably bigger fan and all that, and definitely generates a lot more heat. If it's all running full blast, 60 watts is not quite enough to charge it, or it takes a lot longer. So it actually comes with an 87-watt one. So this one only does 60 watts. So if you have a bigger MacBook Pro, just keep that in mind. This is going to charge extra slow. If you're rendering something and the fan is going and the screen is up max brightness, it actually might not charge at all. It's basically just keeping up with the power draw. But if you have it closed and you're just plugging it in, or it's asleep, it'll definitely charge probably fast enough. So let's look at the side here, and we can see what the plugs on here are. So basically, it has two regular USB-A charging at basically at 2.4 amps. So that's actually pretty high. So that's good for iPads and whatnot. No problem. It has the Quick Charge 3.0 compatible one. So if you have some of the newer Android phones, the Samsung phones, etc., this can charge it quite fast because it uses actually higher voltage. Also, if you have an iPhone 10 or 10s or even an 8, it should also charge faster because it's basically the super high amps. And then last but not least, you have the PD Type-C connector. So use this one to power your MacBook Pro or your iPad Pro, etc. And yeah, so that's what it looks like. And let's open it up. Not really much to it. It's actually probably bigger than the original Apple one, so I wouldn't use this one for travel too much. But yeah, not too bad. The one weird thing is it doesn't actually show what the plug looks like. So I'm not sure if it has a compatible plug or not. We'll have to see when we open it. So definitely check out the unboxing video for that. So just keep in mind, this is not a sponsored post at all. These are just 3 products that we ended up getting because we also have a MacBook Pro and we wanted to get something for an additional power setup. So take a look. Okay, thank you. Bye. The SIM card is here on the bottom right, and there's also a very small notch here on the bottom right as well. You guys can see that. There's also